Guys, we just started off this episode with a little group yawn in the studio. I'm feeling good about it.
Even though we've had 2 coffees this morning.
You know what? That's crazy. Now that I'm thinking about it. Guys, we have Keaton on the pod. You are a highly requested guest for the book episode.
Wait, are you just telling me that? Because I feel honored about that.
No, you really are. No, I'm lying.
She's like, actually, I just made that up.
I've never told someone they're highly requested if they weren't. Like, I just like, hey guys.
I'm asking because I'm like, I would. I'd be like, everyone wanted you.
No,
everyone was dying to see you. Just me.
No, like I will be like if I want someone on the podcast, like I want someone on the pod. Like, yeah, it's because I have some questions. You know what I mean?
I am a new book girly, so that's why I'm like, wait, I'm so excited.
I don't feel like it's new at this point anymore.
I guess I feel new because you're like a long-term book girl.
Thank you.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like to me, you started the love.
Thank you. And you know what? I agree.
Take that. Take that and run with it.
Our friends.
Yeah.
You know, not like at large or anything.
Yeah.
But like our friend group. Also, you've been on the show like 7 times now.
Yeah, I love it here.
But not for a book episode.
I know. That's why I'm really excited today.
It's also good because the girlies love fantasy. And like, I'm just not a huge fantasy girly. How many times can I say girly? Like take a shot every time you hear it in this episode. Just kidding. But it'll be good because you can be like our residential. You can be our resident fiction. No, our resident fantasy book girl.
Yeah, I'm very excited about that. Fantasy is like one of my favorite, if not my favorite genre to read.
It definitely is your favorite genre.
And I like will die over books. And then I go and check Katie Book Club and she's like 3 stars. And I'm like, woo, that was 10 for me.
Listen. The first ACOTAR book.
Okay.
That was like, I liked it, but it's just hard because here's the thing. The first book in any fantasy series, which is what I've learned, is that it's setting the world up.
Yes.
So that's a lot of learning and a lot of weird words that I'm not really quite getting. And they're really long. And so that is hard.
Yeah. It is hard to get into if it's not something that you're used to.
Yes.
I think for me, like as a reader, I read all throughout like elementary, high school, middle school. Like I always read. And I loved fantasy. Like that was the only thing that I read. So I feel like that's why it just comes more naturally to me. Like I read I read Twilight, Shatter Me. Like I read, Maze Runners, like Divergent. Hunger Games. I read all of it. So I think that's why it's natural.
That's why I don't understand why it's harder for me as an adult.
What happened to you?
I don't know, because I was the biggest Twilight fan there's ever been. Like, literally obsessed. I could tell you exactly where I was when I found out that Jacob had imprinted on Renesmee. I literally, my jaw dropped. I ran to the other room. My parents were divorced. I was newly in the first rental. I ran to my mom's room to tell her. I was in 5th grade. She had no idea what I was talking about. And I was obsessed. But here's the thing. I do like it. I will say, I think the time that you read a book the timing is very important because you've got to be in the mood for it. And for me, with fantasy, it needs to be cold outside.
Yeah,
and I need to be in the mood, which I was planning on, catching up and reading all of them this winter. And I've been in the worst like fiction book slump of my life. And I've just been reading so much nonfiction, which doesn't make sense. So it's really cutting into my fantasy time. I'm open. I like the second one of ACOTAR.
I mean, you absolutely have to.
Obviously.
It's the best one.
And I loved Fourth Wing. Like, I loved that.
Okay, that's good.
You didn't like it that much, right?
Okay, I loved Fourth Wing.
Okay.
I did not like the second book, Iron Flame.
Me neither.
Flame was pretty much like, I would rather rip my teeth out with pliers than read that again.
I have to be really honest with you. I am at 42%. And I have not
And
finished.
you will be there for the next 6 months.
No, first off, I read all the time. The word count of that book has to be so insane. But also that I was so excited. Like when I finished Fourth Wing, I was like, oh my God, I was literally like some loser all over social media, like practically begging for an advanced reader's copy. Obviously, you're not going to get me one. Never got that, by the way. And I was so excited. I had pre-ordered it. I was like, it was on my calendar. I was like, you need to like have less work so you can read this book that day. And then I started reading it and I was like, am I the only person who feels that way? And thank God everyone's together.
I was just about to say that. Like, the good thing about this is I felt that way when I was reading it. And then when I went on social and I saw that everyone and all of my friends who are reading it, we all feel the same exact way. Something about it, it's too long. There's a lot of unnecessary plot in it. It's still a great book. Like, I'm going to read the third one. I finished it. I'm still going to continue the series. But Fourth Wing was just absolutely everything. Like,
it was so good.
It was so good that like you're just like waiting for the second one, and then it was just not. I don't know what it was. Just wasn't it.
It just wasn't it. And it just went on for too long. The first book I loved, and I understand the love for fantasy. And again, it's weird because I grew up reading pretty much nothing but fantasy. That's what you read as a kid. Yeah. And I loved it. And I really could see myself getting into it. I think it's just difficult for me, honestly, because of my Goodreads goal. Because they're so fucking long. And I'm like, wait, I have to read 7 books this month, which is not a good way to go about it. I understand your goal doesn't matter. I just like having that because it makes me stay on my routine of reading.
Yeah.
You know, so I should maybe back off with that. And what should I read?
Yeah, but the thing is like, reading should be enjoyable. That's why you're reading. And if you're not enjoying it, like, don't feel like, oh my God, well, I have to finish this book. Just be like, or like, I have to read. Like, if you're not enjoying it, you're not enjoying it. It sucks. Like, I'm like that too. Like, I have to finish things. I never like do not finish a book. Like, Same. I'm like, I will finish it. I don't care. There's only one book that I have not like in the past like 2 years. It was the Selection series, which is a young adult. Okay, the reason I read this is because Destiny bought it for me for my birthday. She read it when she was in high school. And she was like, I haven't read this in years, but I think you would like it. When I read it again, I was like, this is super like young adult, like adolescent. It just wasn't my vibe. So I read the first 2 in the series. I started the 3rd one because I was like, I'm just going to finish it. I really couldn't. I got like 12 pages in. Like literally I was like 12 pages in. And I was like, I think we're done. Yeah. I think that I don't care enough about these people. Ends. Yeah, like I hope that these characters are doing well, but I really could care less what happens to them, and I would rather read something else.
Yeah.
And my time is valuable, and I need to go back to my smut, and I don't really need this.
The thing is, I know that I could like it. Like the idea, because I love Harry Potter too. Like I love Harry Potter.
Yep.
So if I'm like cuddled up, and it's like, I like the idea when I'm like by the fire reading a fantasy book. It's just, I think I think it's the lengths of the book, because another thing about me is that when I'm reading a book, it doesn't matter how much I actually like the contents of the book or not. The faster I finish a book, which again has nothing to do with like if I'm reading it because I want to and I can't put it down. The faster I read a book, the more I typically like it, because if I drag something out, I feel a lot less connected to it. So with fantasy, if it takes me longer to get through, it just, for some reason, I can't describe it. It's just harder.
That's how I feel. But what I will say is like, I think one of the main reasons, like I read a lot of just like one-off, like a romance novel or like whatever, like just like a random fiction novel. But like with fantasy, the reason I really love fantasy so much is because I love character development. Like I don't get that in just like a one book that's like, even if it's like 500 pages, like I am getting character development, but over the course of like 6 books, like the characters mean so much more to me than any other book that I've ever read, because I'm like, I know everything about you. And I think that's why I like them more. I just feel so much more connected to them in a way, because I can like see what they've been through or why they make certain, like you start realizing like why they make certain choices. Whenever I'm reading like a one-off book, I'm like, I don't really know you that well. So I don't really know like why you would do this.
That's true.
In fantasy, I get it. I'm like, I know exactly why, because I know you. My best friend.
I prefer series. Like I think about like Magnolia Parks, and like I like that because I know, outside of being friends with Jessa and like her also being a basically like resident co-host here, like I like knowing so much about the characters throughout, and those are long books too.
That's on my TBR. You have never read any. I just ordered all 4 of them because I wanted the cute like little covers that they have, and so I just ordered all 4. It's on my TBR for 2024, and I'm very excited about it.
Here's the thing, I know I talk about it a lot just when Jess is on, but I like read the books before they were out, and this is before the Magnolia Parks is the first book she ever released, so she wasn't a published author at that point, and I read it like we became friends on Instagram before we were like actual friends, just through a lot of like mutual people. Dom actually introduced us, and I loved those books, but I feel like they don't make my list enough because I used to literally like to log the books because they weren't even on Goodreads. I would like do like a specific band's like sheet music.
Okay.
To like remember like that was the one.
Like this is the one.
But they're so good, and I forget to put them actually on my list because they're never on my yearly wrap up because I read it like prior, and now I'm confused on like what I've read and what I haven't.
Yeah.
So I need to like get back into it. But that is easily my favorite series, I would say, honestly, of like all time. Like they're so good.
Are you a rereader? Do you reread books?
No.
Or no?
No, but I would reread. Like I would reread that.
Okay. I was just wondering because like
do you?
I do. And like if I really love a book and I just can't let it go, I will reread it like 6 months later.
Okay, I was just going to say how long in between.
Like not right back to back, but like I'm definitely a rereader. And like some people just aren't like I feel like it's weird, not weirder, but it's like less common to like keep rereading the same book.
What books do you reread?
I'm trying to think. There's like, well, with fantasy, sometimes I'll reread a book because there's so much information, but I also really liked it. Like I've reread ACOTAR before because I'm like, I just need to like understand this again, or like you
want to be back in the world.
Yeah, I want to be back in this world. Like I read those books way too quickly that I have to go back because I'm like, I finished those in like 2 months and that's not natural. So I read the whole ACOTAR series in a month, and that was not good for me because then I had nothing else to live for afterwards.
Totally. How many books are there in the series?
There's 5 in ACOTAR, and then there's obviously like the other 2 that she has, which are insane. I think the reason I love fantasy so much is because if you like Harry Potter and you like good writing where everything ties together in a way that you're just like, how did this connect? Like, you know, when you get to the end of Harry Potter and it's like everything about all of the movies starts making sense. That's what you get in these books. And you're just like, wait, that she wrote this in such a sick way that it just makes so much sense once you read them.
You know why else I think I would really like fantasy? Because it has nothing to do, it's not relatable in any way, shape, or form. The people that I love that I follow on like TikTok, like for example, my favorite follows are people who live on farms. I mean, that's becoming more relatable, let's be honest. But like people who live in the North Pole, like who have completely different lives than me. When people are like begging for people to be relatable, I'm like, please be as unrelatable as possible. I want to have nothing in common with you because it's so much more interesting to me when I have nothing in common with them.
That is a pet peeve of mine in books, which I know you sent that over to me, but like I don't like pop culture references in books that are done in like a very corny way. Like I'm reading for an escape. Like I'm not really trying, like there's some books and they'll reference TikTok and I'm like, I'm gonna throw up. I'm gonna throw up right now. Don't talk about this in this book. Like I want this to be like not at all what could be real. And that's, I think, why I like fantasy so much. I'm like, this is just like the most, I'm obviously not hunting for my food. Hello. Like, but this is iconic. And she's like so sickening. So love her.
I'm obsessed.
Yeah. I'm like, I love her.
It's like when they started doing like text bubbles and everyone's like, stop.
Yes. That's exactly what it is. I don't like that. Like sometimes it works.
Yeah.
But most of the time it's not my vibe.
It's also like when movies, books, when they try to be like too with the times right now. And it's like, it just feels so forced and inauthentic. Yeah. It just feels weird. Like it's like you're like a try hard. You know what I mean? Like you're trying to like stay with the times, but like you should just stay in your lane.
Yes, you know exactly. I mean? Like I'm reading a book.
Yeah, I'm reading a book. I'm not here to learn. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm like, this is not what I came here for. I don't want to know about this. Please don't talk about that.
Not even here to learn. It's more so like, this is stupid stuff. Like I don't care about like if you're referencing a pop culture moment of like so-and-so's like affair. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need that.
Yeah, I don't need it either. I'm not into it.
Yeah, I don't like that at all.
Not my vibe.
I'm trying to think of pet peeves I have in books. Okay, what tropes do you like? Because I love Grumpy Sunshine. Like, I am a Grumpy Sunshine girl.
Oh, that's the best.
And that makes so much sense given my dating history.
You're
like,
so a Grumpy Sunshine girl.
So grumpy. Like, you need to like not smile besides when you're with me.
Yes, exactly.
Like, if you show any ounce, like, no.
Yeah, I think... Okay, I love an enemies to lovers. See, that is my favorite. I think that's my favorite.
This is so opposite. Like, I don't like enemies to lovers, even though everyone loves it. Like, I don't know what it is about it. I just don't love it. And I love, like, Margot hates, like, miscommunication tropes.
Oh, I hate that.
Oh, I live for, okay, well, Magnolia Park's not be for you, but, like, I fucking love it. Like,
you love a miscommunication trope?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I would like to miscommunicate.
That's why I had to do not finish. Like, I'm like, I can't with the miscommunication. Yeah. Like, I literally want to, like, rip the book into pages. Like, I hate it. Did you read Before We Were Strangers?
Yeah, love. Okay. I meant to DM you.
That was kind of miscommunication in a way, but it wasn't to where I didn't like it.
Okay, so does that make sense? I mean miscommunication, that's exactly what I mean. That's what I mean by Magnolia Parks. Miscommunication can just be
like a misunderstanding almost, not like I said this, you heard it different. Like I hate that.
That is not what I'm
just
saying.
Speak to each other.
And also I think it's different. Like with Magnolia Parks, they're growing up and at different phases and things just aren't really working out at the right time. And like at the end of the day, like It's like when two people like actually like want to be with each other, but they have so many, they're like so fucked up that they can't, like, that's fine.
Yeah.
That I feel like you would still like Magnolia Parts.
I know. I think I would like Magnolia Parts. Like I'm reading it no matter what. I ordered the books.
No, but I love
miscommunication.
Like,
trope,
miscommunicate all
me.
You want, please.
Oh God,
Obsessed.
I can't. No, enemies to lovers. Like I'm literally like punch me in the face, and then 4 chapters later, like tell me that you love me. Literally, I'm obsessed.
I think with enemies to lovers,
I'm sick.
Not that all these aren't predictable. Like you can get the general idea, like with any of the books that you're
reading the same 17 books that have the same exact trope. I'm like, I know exactly what's gonna happen.
Yeah, I think that's why I don't know. I think that's why I don't love enemies to lovers. Back to fantasy though, like what series would you recommend to someone who's like breaking into fantasy, if you will?
I mean, honestly, like I really would recommend the A Court of Thorns and Roses series because there's other fantasy series that I've read that I like, but they don't like have all the aspects. For example, like Shatter Me is like a good like fantasy series and it's dystopian. So it's like more like Hunger Games vibe, you know, it's like districts and now they're poor. Whereas like A Court of like
and now they're poor.
Then now they're poor. And period. And that's the end of that story.
And that's what happened.
And they're all broke.
Yeah.
No, but it's like dystopian in that way. But it's like young adult. Like for me, like I need to have like some type of romance in like a fantasy series.
Yeah.
Like I do like fantasy, but I need to have like something
to cling to.
Yeah, something to cling to, something to root for, like a triangle, something. So I would honestly say the A Court of Thorns and Roses. The only thing with that is, which like if you love it a lot, you've got to read the rest of the series because they're all like connected. It's like a like multiverse vibe. So like then, you know, you're going to get sucked into like a 20 book thing.
Okay.
But you don't have to be. You can just read A Court of Thorns. Actually, no. I feel like she just recently said if you read A Court of Thorns and Roses, you're gonna if you read A Court of Thorns and Roses, you have to read Crescent City because now everything's mashed. But A Court of Thorns and Roses is the best. It's the best. I'll never get over it. Like the feeling I had when I first read those books,
the best
was just the best. Yeah.
You know, fantasy authors, what they are is they're businesswomen. Okay.
Oh, she's getting her bag.
Getting her bag because not only do you have to buy one book, you have to buy all 7 in the series, and then the other series that are looped in. You really are a 20 book thing at that point.
Oh yeah, because I mean, Throne of Glass is 8 or 9 books, so I obviously bought all of those, read every single one. And you know, and the last 2 books, the last book in Throne of Glass is 900 pages, so it's a huge book. Then you get to Crescent City. There's 2 books out right now. And the 3rd one comes out this month. But on top of that, each different seller that she has, so Barnes & Noble, Walmart, Target, there's like 5 different sellers. They each have different bonus chapters. So you have to pick which bonus chapter you think you might want and get it from that seller. Like I pre-ordered the book from Walmart. I've never ordered a book from Walmart in my life. Like on pre-order, and I did it because I needed this specific bonus chapter that I knew was going to be only at Walmart. But like, what am I going to do about the Barnes & Noble chapter? I don't know. Like, she's going to get her bag.
These women are entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
I mean, my God.
Yeah, it's like a lot.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I wonder what their sales are. Like, remember when Colleen Hoover like popped off and she sold more books than the Bible for like the first time ever?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was insane. Was it Ends With Us? Is that what it is?
It was all of her books collectively. I think it was 2020 because it was when all this stuff started to pop off.
Okay.
And all of a sudden she's back on the Times list for books that were released 10 years ago.
Yeah, because I read Colleen Hoover in high school, which I thought was crazy because when I picked back up reading, obviously I like read a couple Colleen Hoover books and I was like, I remember reading her in high school. Like I read a bunch of her stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting, but like they are going to get their bag.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, I actually would love, this would be a good podcast episode for me to do just because I'm interested in it. I would love to know the actual like finances behind being an author at that level.
Yeah.
Because when they're doing all of those, like she's doing exclusive deals for these books.
100%.
I wonder like what that is.
Oh, Brandon was trying to tell me because I'm like always ordering all these books and like I'm like, I mean, she's got to be like so rich. Like I'll be like talking about different authors. He's like, you think they're like rich? And I'm like, are you on the right planet? He thinks like I'm the only person in the world that reads. Like, do you know what I mean? Like he like thinks it's so weird that I just like read all day. I'm like, you know, like they make a lot of money. He's like, I mean, they can't make that. And I'm like, are you delusional?
They're selling
like,
millions
I'm
of
not
books.
the only. It's not like there's like a couple hundred people reading. Like what?
And they're getting like movie deals.
Yeah, it's like I'm like, oh, they're just like randomly on Hulu, but they're a nobody. Like, what are you talking about?
Like, that's not how that works. I mean, I don't think you make a ton of money as an author who's not selling, but obviously I know that's like a hard. But we're talking about
I'm talking about the Colleen Hoovers and the people who are like getting, like she's getting a deal and like Blake Lively's going to be in a movie. I'm like, you don't think she's making money off that? Like what? It doesn't make sense.
That is crazy. I am going to go back though and read Iron Flame, like finish it because I need to like.
Good luck.
Actually, maybe I'm not because honestly, it just like wasn't bringing me joy.
Okay, but can I just be honest? Like Iron Flame was not bringing me that much joy, and because it's such a long book, I had to download it on Audible and like listen to it. Like
I also did that, and I'm still at 42%.
Yeah, I had to start like listening while I was doing the laundry and stuff because I was like, I physically can't sit here and read this anymore. Like I put it on 2 times speed.
I did too,
and it's like speaking really fast in my ear. I'm like, come on, like let's get through this book.
When you're reading books that are 900 pages long, are you ever like, okay, like let's hurry this up?
No, not if it's good. Like with Throne of Glass, I'm like, oh my God, like this can't end. Like I'm like, there's too much. Like, we have so much to talk about. But you can tell when a book, like when you're enjoying what you're reading by like how long it takes you to finish like those books. Like I feel like when you're really invested, it's like nothing. You just like breeze through it or you like really enjoy it. Like there's some books I take my time and read because I'm like, I know that this is just like a chill book. But if it's really good, like with Fourth Wing, I was like, this is done in a day. I cannot put this down. Like I have to know what happens. I'm too invested.
I was dying. I like couldn't do anything besides read that book.
I couldn't even sleep. I was like literally dreaming of them. I was like, well, what are they doing with their dragons? Like I'm so on another planet right now. But
it just makes me so sad that Iron Flame was that. You know what is so weird? Like when I found out, because I had already read the, what's the book? The Things We Left, remember?
Yeah, Things We Left Behind. Things We Never Got Over.
No, see, this is the issue with books. They use about 5 words and they just mix them up. Okay,
exactly.
No, the other one I'm going to look it up because Margot read it and was so obsessed with this book, made us all read it and we all loved it. Wasn't fantasy, okay? It was, Rebecca Yarros, by the way, is like, I read so many of her books last year or this 2023.
I saw, yeah.
Oh my God, so many of her like romance books and I love them. Okay, so, The Things We Leave Unfinished. So I wasn't that far off. That is, that is so not a fantasy book. Okay, that is.
Yeah.
So when I found out, because for some reason to me, the fact that an author can write a different genre, not even a different genre. Like for some reason, this only applies to fantasy.
Yeah.
Like when you're a fantasy writer, I feel like you're just a fantasy writer because it's so specific.
I agree.
And the fact that you can, I don't even know why I feel this way, but when I found out that the woman who wrote Fourth Wing was I was filming myself as I put this together in my head, was the same woman who wrote The Things We Leave Unfinished.
Yeah.
I couldn't get over it. I literally, to me, that was like the craziest thing that I'd ever seen.
Yeah, I feel that way too. Like, I feel that way. Like, even with like thriller authors, like I'm like, I just can't picture you really writing anything else, which is like literally not true at all. But like, I'm like, you're a thriller author. Like, don't write anything else.
No, and like not fair of us to say and not cool, but like for some reason,
like I just put you in a box. And you have to stay in that box, or else it doesn't really fit with my narrative that I have of you.
Totally.
Yeah.
But I will say Rebecca Yarros, I'll read off one of my favorite books of 2023. So she writes a lot. I believe her husband is, I'm assuming, a veteran, something of that sort. He served, I think, because a lot of her books have to do with like people in service of some sort, right? So they all have like military ties. But I never thought I would like be into that at all until I just happened to read more of her books because I was like, oh, I really like these two. I'll like give it a try. The Last Letter by Rebecca Yarros is one of my favorite books I've ever read.
I've heard of this. Yes.
I was reading it in my pool and I finished and I was sobbing by myself.
See, I love books like that.
It was so good. And anyone I send that book to and has read it has texted me and like there's like tears, like photos once they finish. It was so good. I also liked In the Likely Event by her. And then I read a couple others. I pretty much loved all of them. But The Last Letter and In the Likely Event were my top 2.
I think I could branch out and read some more books by her. It's just like kind of weird and revert. You know what I mean? Like
that's what I'm
reading
saying.
Iron Flame and Fourth Wing and then being like, wait, you wrote this? Like,
it's just,
what is this?
It's so.
Where are the dragons?
It's also weird because a lot of them, like just the fact that they all have those ties, which I love when an author does that. Like I love when they have some sort of common theme. Like Jennifer Hillier is one of my favorite thriller authors and she writes everything in the Pacific Northwest. Like I like things like that.
Yes.
So I think it's cool that she has those ties and like people I've never really read. I mean, I know there's other books that they have those ties. I've just never read them. And I really like that, but it's just so crazy. I mean, she is a woman, Rebecca Yarros, a woman of many talents. Okay?
A woman of many talents.
She's very multifaceted.
She really is.
But
I love that for her.
I really do love that for her. Okay, we have our phones because we have so many things. We haven't even gotten to this part.
Yeah, we just like started rambling, like literally.
Yeah.
What?
Okay, so since we actually I know I gave you top 3 books of all time, but I changed mine to this year. So you can give us your top 3 books because I've already said it a billion times and I don't really know. I change my mind like every day.
Okay. Okay, hold on.
Can I guess yours?
Okay, yeah, but I don't know if you'll guess it. I feel like mine are...
Because I don't know them.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say A Court of Thorns and Roses.
You're very close.
That's not even on your top 3?
Well, of all time, of all Sarah J. Maas books, like if I were to just lump a series, Throne of Glass was my favorite series that I've ever read by her. That's like, that was actually her first fantasy series that she ever wrote. And it's the one that's 8 books.
Wow.
And it's my favorite.
Do you think
thing
I
ever.
should read
and
it?
I read that in 2023 and I loved it so much. I mean, yes, but did you finish A Court of Thorns and Roses? Like, did you
No,
ever?
I only read 2.
I don't think. Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think you like literally care.
No, but I like want to. Like, I could see myself getting
Throne
into
of
it.
Glass is very, very good. And to me, I like it more because, like I said, like I like character development and I like to read different people's perspectives. With A Court of Thorns and Roses, you just get like Feyre's perspective and that's it. Like it's only about her. In the other ones, you eventually get like a bunch of different like POVs, which I really enjoy because I feel like I know like even the side characters. Like I'm like, I know everything about you because I got your POV. Like
of the A Court of Thorns and Roses series, which book was your favorite?
Maybe the last one, Silver Flames, or there's like a nostalgia that I have for reading the second one. Mist and Fury is so good. And it's like after you read that first book, which is like world building, it is very world building. Like you're like, I have no idea what I'm reading. It's basically gibberish, the first like 5 chapters. Cause you're like, these are words I've never heard.
I literally was like, what is like a fairy, whatever. I literally was like, what?
Yeah. So like after the first book, like that second book, I don't know. It's like so special to me. I don't know. I was
hoping you were going to say the third one because that's what I have next.
Oh, Wings and Ruin is fire.
How do you remember all these names?
I said this the other day and my friends always make fun of me. I remember everything. You know how people will be like, oh my God, I read a book and I don't even know the plot of it. I remember like every single thing about every book ever.
That's a really good thing.
I think I have a photographic memory. I think that's what it is. Like I can like literally see like, that like in my head, I'm like, I like know where I could find that in the book.
Oh,
does that make sense?
Yeah, you have a photographic memory for sure.
That's what that is, right?
If a book is unique in the sense that it's just not the same story told over and over again, I'll remember it. But if it's when they start to mesh together with other books, I cannot tell you.
Yeah. I mean, maybe I'll outgrow that, but I pretty much remember like everything. Like I know exactly what happens in Wings of Ruin. Like if you were to text me and be like, "Oh, I'm at this part," I'm like, I know exactly what's happening after that, and I haven't read it since 2022. Like I'll know, but I'm a freak.
Wow, I love that. Okay, so top 3 books of all time.
Top 3 books of all time. I'm gonna say series wise. Well, I'm gonna say of 2023 of my favorite. I'm gonna say Throne of Glass is my favorite series. And then I read One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid.
I love that.
And I loved that book so much. Like I don't know. It just was like really beautiful. I really enjoyed it a lot. And I did not like, this is my unpopular opinion. I know you asked me this. I did not like Seven Husbands.
Oh my God, I loved that book.
I did not like that book. And so I was
crazy
like,
to me.
when my friend Poppy was like, you got to read One True Loves. I was like, I don't know. Like I just wasn't really feeling that completely redeemed. Like I was like, this is the best book ever. I'm obsessed with it.
Justice for Taylor Jenkins Reid's early romance novels.
Yeah.
I've read every one of them. I actually really like them and they're not very well liked. They're not so like spoken positively about.
I'd never heard of that. Yeah. And when I read it, I was like, this is like literally one of my favorite books that I've ever read. Like I was like sobbing towards the end of it. And it's like when a book is like that small, it was like a pretty short book, but I'm like, if you can like make me feel that way, this connected in such a short amount of time, I feel like that speaks so much. I don't know. I just really, really enjoyed that book.
I loved it. I love her early romance novels. I like those better than the stuff that's been coming out, honestly, besides Seven Husbands.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I don't know what it was.
Did you read like Malibu Rising?
No,
I did not love either of them.
I didn't read Malibu Rising because I was going to, actually. But I started with Seven Husbands and I really didn't enjoy it. And so then
her books are so different. Like honestly,
that's how I feel now. And knowing after reading One True Loves, I'm like, okay, like I don't need to like put her in that box because I feel like I did. And so now I can like read some more by her and like actually really enjoy them. But yeah, I really liked that one. I don't know what my third all-time favorite would be. I was gonna say Before We Were Strangers, which is crazy because I read that last week. Yeah. But like it was immediately, I think, probably one of my favorite books ever, which everyone said it would be when I posted that I was reading it. If not that, since that's this year, I would say Normal People.
Before We Were Strangers is the book that got me into romance reading.
Really?
I thought I didn't realize that I liked romance books prior. I read that book in 2020 and I sat down. This is like peak COVID when I was reading 5 books a week, and I would get in bed at like 5 p.m. with my like fake, like I'd have like kombucha in a wine glass, and I would sit there in my townhouse and I would just sit and read. I read that book in one sitting. I stayed up that night. I couldn't stop reading it. I think Lauren Elizabeth and I read it around the same time, like all of our like book friends at that point. And I just couldn't stop. I could still tell you everything about that book. And I read it probably 300 books ago. It is so good. But that's the one I used to, that actually is when I give like, oh, if you're a new reader, these are like the 3 books you should read.
I would 100%,
that's always on that list.
Yeah, I would 100% recommend it now that I've read it. And one of the things that we were just talking about, pet peeves, I do not like in books, I do not like a dual timeline. It is, it bothers me so much. It's way too much. It's just like, it's overwhelming for me and I don't enjoy that. But Before We Were Strangers has a dual timeline and I loved it. So I'm like, the fact that that didn't affect me and it's one of my favorite books says a lot, because the second I open a book and it's a dual timeline, I'm like, I gotta go. I have to exit.
I used to be like that now that I don't mind it anymore, but I used to really hate it.
Yeah, it bothers me a lot for some reason.
That's what maybe Before We Were Strangers cured
me. Before We Were Strangers, I loved it. It didn't bother me at all.
It's such a quick read and it's so good.
Yeah.
Like so good.
I like am like praising it to every single person. I'm like, oh, have you read this book? You have to read it next. I don't care what you had planned. Read this one.
It's really quick too. Like it's like a short book. Okay, so I wrote down actually 5 because
I'd love to hear.
But I just had to like back up, okay? First one I already said, The Last Letter by Rebecca Yarros.
Yes.
Okay. I read 20 Years Later, Charlie Donnelly, and I did that as a book club book. Amazing book club book. Not every book is a book club book, okay? You need to be able to discuss it. A horrible, horrible book club book would be It Starts With Us. There's nothing to discuss, okay? You need something that has multiple different timelines, a lot of different perspectives. You need something that's very layered and you really have to think about it, because then you actually have things to discuss. You need a lot going on in the book. That book, amazing for a book club. Anyways, I loved that one. Little wild card, To Love Jason Thorne by Ella Mays. I don't know how you actually say her name. Have you read that one? Loved it. Margaret recommended it to me and I was like, okay, it's like one of those like cutesy animated cover. Like I didn't know if I was actually gonna like it. Loved that book. I read that book. I was flying to LA. I started that book the night before my flight, finished it, started the sequel after, and I finished it by the time the next morning. I'd finished 2 books by the time I was walking onto the plane.
I love when that happens.
Was obsessed. I love those. And it was To Hate Adam Connor is the second one.
I've heard of that one. Okay.
It's good. It's a sequel, but I love them both, but still love Jason Thorne's better.
Okay.
I went through, this year I read a ton of Frida McFadden and a ton of Rebecca Yarros. Frida McFadden's an amazing thriller writer, and they're quick, they're fast. Sure, they're replications of other books. Yeah. Sure, okay, sure, whatever. But I still love them, so it doesn't really matter. The Inmate by Frida McFadden. Have you read The Inmate?
Yep, loved it.
I loved that book. It was so good. I mean, there was a little whiplash at the end.
The ending was a little chaotic for me.
I agree.
But it was still so intriguing the whole way through.
My only critique of the book was that there was too much going on at the end.
The end was too overwhelming, and I felt like she was trying to tie up a lot of loose ends in a short amount of time. That was the only thing for me. Like I was like, I feel like you're really trying to make this all mesh together when like it needs to be like spaced out a little bit more.
Yes.
A little chaotic.
Did you see the ending coming?
Kind of.
Same. I just remember being like, I could see it going either way.
Yeah, like, but I mean, I guess that's the point. But yeah, I could kind of see it coming, but not with the mom. Like, I was so thrown by that. I was like, I'm so confused.
I just read, I'm not even going to say, the 5th book was 5-Star Weekend, but I've talked about that so many times on this podcast, so on the book episode, so I'm not going to say it. But I just read The Surrogate Mother by her.
By Frida?
Yes. Okay. And obviously it's about surrogacy and probably very much a like trigger warning. Like I wouldn't recommend it if that's like in all seriousness. But the book was really good. But the ending, you really just never, I really couldn't tell where it was going. And like I wanted so badly for like one person to actually be fine and clear and in the whatever, but they confuse you. You know what my biggest pet peeve, and it's a book, I just got it. When the narrator lies to you.
Oh, I love it. Like The Perfect Marriage.
No, I did love The Perfect Marriage, but
like
also,
she lied.
Like The Perfect Marriage, here's the thing. That book was incredible, but like in thrillers, no more wives killing the husbands or the wives doing it. Like,
well, yeah, I'm like sick of it. It's like old news.
It's so old news. Like that's what I always say. Like a good thriller is when the wife doesn't kill the husband. And that book was so amazing. And then it was literally the most basic, obvious ending. Like that book would have been like a 6-star to me, but it had the ending like